be interested to see if he wins his next fight because
What's the rumor? Ciryl Gane? He's gonna.
Ciryl Gane supposedly. There's a video that hasn't gone viral, but one of his losses, he was very much an adult. I believe already a black belt, and he was taken down, and the guy twisted his ankle. And he had no defense. He tapped so quickly. There was no. I had a fight where I got arm barred, and I was literally willing to let somebody break my arm before giving up.
This is Vitor Belfort.
Vitor Belfort. With Tom, the moment he felt any pressure on his ankle, he tapped immediately, which lets me know a lot about him.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well. So an interesting video dropped, Jon Jones, earlier in this year, talking about how he felt the Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane fight would have gone, looking at a previous fight of Tom Aspinall's, and pretty much, saying that he saw a mental weakness with Tom Aspinall. And I thought this was very interesting. I think in regards to Jon Jones, he's always had that very strong mindset. Reminds me a little bit of Floyd Mayweather, where he's always looking to get little advantages here and there. And Jon Jones, for all the, things that he's got involved in outside of the octagon, there's no doubt that he's an exceptional fighter, a brilliant fighter. And you look, even that Tom Aspinall fight, if it were to happen, I don't think Tom Aspinall would have just, ran directly through him. Jon Jones would have given him, a very good fight. But I thought that was very interesting. I think as well, even in that clip, Jon Jones, he is a competitor. So I think that clip shows that, he was looking at Tom Aspinall. And I think also he knows the threat that Tom Aspinall is and was. I think it's a fight that, if Jon Jones wanted that fight, I think that it was there on the table. He's kind of looking at that fight, how Canelo Alvarez would have looked at David Benavidez. It's a new kid on the block. I'm, regarded as, the GOAT and greatest of all time. If I lose to this up and coming guy, he takes my entire fan base. He's the new GOAT. Everyone looks at him. The irony with Canelo is then he fought Crawford, a fight that he thought he was going to win. And then he lost that. And now he actually looks worse. I think it's actually quite similar to Jon Jones where, a loss is not the worst thing in the world. Even Anderson Silva's lost. Muhammad Ali lost boxing fights. So I think if he was to even give, Tom Aspinall a good fight, a close fight, I think he could have, come out of that with a lot of credit. But yeah, obviously I want to, bring this back to Tom Aspinall. I think that, he's obviously received a lot of criticism since the fight. I can understand, to a certain degree the fans. Because look, fans, you never know someone's situation. I think, some of those fans, at the stadium, some of them, maybe that would have been their first MMA fight. People have saved up money. Hotels, travel, and essentially they just want to get their money's worth. So I can have no real issue with someone, at the stadium, fans that were at the fight, being frustrated at the ending. And even I was, frustrated at the ending. But I think some of the backlash in terms of people saying, Tom Aspinall quit and, he didn't want it and he looked for a way out. To me, I think that's a little bit out of order. I think, a lot of people saying that, Tom Aspinall was exposed and things like that. I would have to, really disagree. I think that a lot of people are overlooking, that first round. I think, Ciryl Gane performed better than people thought. But for me, yeah, sure, maybe he was winning that round. I'm fine with that. But it's not like he was, dominating the fight or, making Tom Aspinall look silly or, it was a one-way street. That fight was in the balance for me. I think it was kind of a, lose-lose situation for Tom Aspinall in the fact that, Jon Jones, took care of Ciryl Gane in the first round and quite easily. Everyone felt like Tom Aspinall was going to do the same. So Tom Aspinall, even if it goes to round two, people are going to talk and, so I think it's always difficult going into a fight like that where you're just expected to just blow a guy out. And I think, for Tom Aspinall, I think that is the case. Up until that, the injury with the eye, I thought it was a bad performance. He was loading up on his punches. I think he was rushing in too much. I think he was just looking, for that one big punch. I thought defensively he wasn't good, not moving his head. Ciryl Gane caused the nosebleed with a straight jab down the middle. So again, I don't think it was a good performance from Tom Aspinall. I think you'll have to look at that. I think he wasn't as sharp as normal. Obviously out the, octagon for over a year. So I don't think it was a great performance, but, exposed and did he quit and things like that? I would have to completely disagree. I think you've also seen Dana White, come out and say that, Tom Aspinall, he didn't want to continue. Not too thrilled with those comments either. I think, this is your fighter. I think you're supposed to, try and defend him as much as you can. He got an eye injury. He's in hospital the rest of the evening. He's obviously, disappointed getting booed, and, that's not really the way that you defend your fighter. Ariel Helwani made a good point. I mean, would Eddie Hearn do that with Anthony Joshua? Absolutely not. Or Conor Ben? No, he wouldn't do that. So I didn't really like those comments from Dana White. I think that's a big issue with Dana White, to be honest. Maybe he didn't like the fact that Tom Aspinall was, and his father were mentioning, transitioning maybe into boxing. Maybe he didn't like those comments, but yeah, I didn't really like that from Dana White. But again, those are my thoughts. Obviously, I was disappointed with the ending. I think all of us were. But look, I mean, a foul is a foul. Whether Ciryl Gane intentionally did it or not, it was a foul. The image is, it looks painful just looking at that image. It's definitely not something I'm going to, put on this channel. But yeah, if Tom, said he can't see, the replays were bad enough that I think we have to take him for his word. And hopefully just get the rematch, and hopefully the rematch, we get a conclusive ending. I think the positive to all of this is that the rematch, will be a lot bigger, a lot of talking points. And I think Tom Aspinall is really going to bring it in the rematch. I think, all this talk probably is going to motivate him. And I think you'll see, a very good performance in the rematch. So those are my thoughts. As always, thanks to you all for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.